The church smelled faintly of lilies and polished wood, a scent Lily Carter had once imagined would forever remind her of happiness. Now it made her throat tighten. She stood behind the tall oak doors, the weight of her wedding gown pressing against her shoulders like an expectation she was no longer sure she could carry. Any minute now, the wedding coordinator whispered for the third time, her voice brittle with forced cheer. Lily nodded, though dread curled tighter in her chest with every passing second. She glanced at her phone again. No new messages, no missed calls. Ethan was never late. He was meticulous, always checking his watch, always correcting others. That was the first crack in her hope. Her fingers trembled as she adjusted her veil. Across the hallway, her mother's eyes glistened with worry, lips moving silently in prayer. Somewhere inside the church, guests shifted in their seats. She could imagine them whispering already, glancing at the clock, wondering what was taking so long. Lily inhaled slowly. This is fine, she told herself. You've survived worse. 6 years ago, she'd stood alone in a hospital hallway, holding a newborn son while his father chose freedom over responsibility. She'd rebuilt her life from exhaustion and determination, working late nights, missing sleep, learning how to be strong because no one else would do it for her. This wedding was supposed to be proof that she hadn't failed. Her phone vibrated. Relief surged, then shattered. I can't do this. I'm sorry. That was all. No explanation. No call. Just 8 cruel words that sliced through her chest. The bouquet slipped from her grasp, roses scattering at her feet. Lily pressed her hand to her mouth as the room tilted. The silence behind the doors suddenly felt unbearable. He's not coming, is he? Her mother whispered. Lily shook her head, unable to speak. The doors opened slightly, letting in a wave of curious faces. Murmurs rippled through the church. Pity settled on her like a heavy cloak. A single mother left at the altar, abandoned again. Her legs threatened to give way, but then she thought of Noah. Of his smile that morning when he told her she looked like a princess. She straightened her spine. You will not break here. That's when footsteps echoed behind her, measured, confident. Lily. She turned, startled. Daniel Hayes stood there, impossibly calm in a tailored suit, his presence commanding even in chaos. Her CEO. The man who rarely smiled, who intimidated entire boardrooms with a single glance. Yet now, his eyes held something gentler. I heard what happened, he said quietly. And I won't let you walk out of here in shame. Before she could protest, he offered his arm. Pretend I'm the groom. The world seemed to stop. Gasps erupted as Daniel Hayes stepped forward beside her, steady and unyielding. Lily hesitated only a moment before placing her trembling hand on his arm. Together, they faced the aisle. And for the first time that day, Lily felt like she wasn't alone. The church doors closed behind them with a heavy thud, sealing away the whispers, the stares, the pity Lily refused to accept. Flashing cameras caught them the moment they stepped outside. Someone shouted Daniel's name. Another called Lily brave. She barely heard any of it. Daniel's hand remained firm at the small of her back, guiding her toward a waiting black sedan. The driver opened the door without question, as if this strange, impossible moment had been planned all along. Inside the car, silence pressed down between them. Lily finally pulled away, clutching her bouquet like a lifeline. You shouldn't have done that, she said, her voice shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. Your reputation, your company, this will turn into a scandal. Daniel loosened his tie, exhaling slowly. It already has. The difference is whether it destroys you, or protects you. She stared at him, disbelief flickering across her face. I didn't ask to be protected. No, he agreed. But you deserve it. The car rolled through the city, sunlight glinting off glass towers. Lily's phone buzzed non-stop. Unknown numbers, messages she couldn't bring herself to read. Her humiliation had gone viral. Daniel watched her carefully. The press will create their own story by tonight, he said. Unless we give them one. Her stomach tightened. What kind of story? That we're together, he replied evenly. That today wasn't a rescue, it was a choice. Lily laughed, sharp and disbelieving. You want me to fake an engagement with my boss? Temporarily, Daniel said. Strict boundaries, clear terms. It protects my company from looking unstable and keeps you from being framed as a victim. And when it ends? She asked softly. When it ends cleanly, he said. Then, after a pause, with respect, they arrived at her apartment building. Daniel followed her inside, where the small space was filled with children's drawings and scattered toys. Proof of a life built carefully, stubbornly. Noah comes first, Lily said immediately. If this confuses him or hurts him, it's over. Daniel knelt to pick up a crayon-stained drawing from the floor. A crooked stick figure family smiled up at him. I wouldn't agree if I couldn't promise kindness, he said. I grew up without it. That honesty surprised her. By evening, Daniel's legal and PR teams had drafted an agreement. No intimacy, no pressure, public appearances only when necessary. Yet when Noah ran into the room and wrapped his arms around Lily's legs, Daniel crouched down and said gently, Hi, I'm Daniel. Noah studied him seriously. Are you staying? Daniel met Lily's eyes before answering. If your mom wants me to. Something inside her shifted. This was supposed to be pretend. But already, it felt dangerously real. The apartment was quiet, the soft hum of the city below filling the spaces where words might have been. Lily sat on the couch, clutching a mug of lukewarm tea. Daniel leaned against the window, shoulders broad, eyes distant as he stared at the glittering skyline. This was supposed to be simple, Lily finally said, her voice brittle. A deal, a plan, and now, her words trailed off. She didn't want to admit it, but her chest ached with a new, unfamiliar tension. Daniel turned, his gaze intense. I know, he admitted. It was supposed to be boundaries. Public appearances, minimal contact, and yet, he paused, stepping closer. I didn't anticipate feeling this. Lily's breath caught. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. She had always told herself she couldn't rely on anyone, certainly not a man like Daniel, powerful, precise, untouchable. But here he was, letting the walls down just enough for her to see him. I don't know if I'm ready for this, she whispered. I told myself it was temporary, safe, and now it feels real. Daniel's expression softened. He lowered himself onto the couch beside her, careful not to crowd her. It is real, Lily. For me, and for Noah, this isn't a game or an obligation. I chose to be here. Her chest tightened further. She'd spent years protecting her heart, telling herself love was a risk too great, a vulnerability too painful. Yet she saw it reflected in Daniel's eyes. Sincerity, patience, and unwavering choice. Before she could answer, a sharp knock at the door shattered the fragile calm. Lily's stomach plummeted. She opened it to find Ethan, her fiancé who had abandoned her at the altar, standing there in disbelief and desperation. Lily, I made a mistake, he pleaded, his eyes wide. Please, can we try again? For the first time in her life, Lily didn't hesitate. She shook her head, firm, resolute. No, Ethan, that chapter is over. Ethan's shoulders slumped. He stepped back, muttering apologies that barely reached her ears. The door closed, and silence returned, heavier but more truthful. Daniel's hand found hers instinctively. You did the right thing, he said softly. I've seen how strong you are. And yet, you don't have to do it alone. Lily's tears, long held back, slipped freely. I've been alone my whole life, she admitted. I don't know how to trust someone again. Daniel brushed a strand of hair from her face. Then let me teach you. Slowly. No pretenses. No expectations. Just us. She looked into his eyes and saw something she hadn't dared to imagine. Safety, respect, and something dangerously close to love. For the first time since Ethan left her, Lily felt the warmth of being chosen, not out of obligation, but by a man who truly saw her, and Noah. Her heart whispered that the pretend story had already become far more real than she had expected. The garden glowed under a canopy of lanterns, their golden light dancing across the petals of roses and peonies arranged with painstaking care. A gentle breeze carried the scent of summer flowers, and the soft hum of a string quartet filled the evening air. Lily stood behind the archway, her gown flowing like a river of ivory silk. Noah clutched her hand, his other hand gripping a small pillow with two shining rings. Her heart raced, not with fear, but with anticipation. This time, there was no fear of abandonment, no uncertainty. Today was hers. Today was theirs. Daniel waited at the altar, the city skyline behind him, his usual composure softened by the faintest tremor of emotion in his eyes. When he saw Lily, the corners of his lips curved slightly, not in a businesslike smile, but in a private, heartfelt way that made her knees weak. Noah tugged at her hand. "Mom, it's really him this time, right?" She knelt to meet her son's eyes, brushing his hair back. "Yes, baby, this time it's real. No one's leaving us." As she rose and stepped onto the flower-strewn path, guests watched in awe. Daniel's gaze never wavered from hers. Every step felt like a reclaiming of everything she had lost. Her dignity, her hope, her trust in love. When they finally met at the altar, Daniel took both her hands in his. "Lily Carter," he began, voice low but steady, "from the moment I met you, I've admired your strength, your courage, your heart. Today, I promise to choose you, every day, in every way, alongside Noah." Tears welled in Lily's eyes. She squeezed his hands, feeling the steady warmth that had grown between them over months of shared laughter, quiet conversations, and moments that neither pretend nor pretense could contain. "And I," Lily whispered, her voice trembling, "promise to love you, not because it's easy, but because it's worth every risk. I promise to build our family together, with honesty, respect, and joy." The officiant smiled knowingly as Noah placed the rings in their hands. "By the power vested in me," he began, but Lily hardly heard the words. She was lost in Daniel's gaze, the certainty of his presence, the reality of the life they had chosen together. As they kissed, the gentle applause of family and friends rose around them. For the first time, Lily felt completely whole. The girl abandoned at the altar had become a woman chosen, by a partner who saw her courage, a son who adored her, and a man who vowed to stand beside them through every storm. Noah cheered, running into their arms, wrapping them both in a triumphant hug. Daniel lifted him high, spinning him with laughter echoing into the night. Lily rested her head against Daniel's shoulder, smiling through tears, knowing that this love, real, unshakable, and fiercely protective, was theirs to keep forever. The woman who had once faced humiliation at the altar had discovered something far greater than rescue. She had found a family built not out of obligation or circumstance, but out of choice, love, and unwavering devotion.